everybody, I'm Oakley at Oakley Does Everything, and today we're going to start our guitar build for the 2021 Great Guitar Build-Off. Stay tuned. I'm going to run you through some of the materials I'm going to be using for this build. I have two slabs of maple here, one for the body and one for the neck. For some of the mechanical things, I did buy a truss rod. Here we have some golden tuning machines. We have golden fret wire. We also have golden strap buttons. And we have this brass mosaic rod that we are going to be using for our fret dots. I'm really excited about that. We have a couple nuts. I bought a maple fretboard for this project. I also got some black wood stain, some fretboard stain. Here we have a black jack plate, our black two-piece bridge. I believe this is a Tune-O-Matic. And the cornerstone of this build will be this sheet of 1/8" thick brass. Now this will actually be the top face of our guitar. Our guitar is going to be a semi-hollow body guitar with this going to be the cover, and we're going to be doing some acid etching to design some really neat patterns in this. And this will of course go over top of our maple body. So let's go ahead and get into the build, and we are going to be starting with the brass facing of our guitar. Hey everybody, just jumping in real fast. I was editing the video for the guitar body, and while I was doing so, I hit 1,000 subscribers. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you that have subscribed. If you haven't done so yet, please do so. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you all so much. Back to the video. Like I said before, I am going to be doing an acid etching on our sheet of brass here. So what I did is I went and I designed a really cool pattern, and this is what it looks like. So after I designed this, I actually sent it over to Lyndsey at Country Creations, and she did a stencil with her Cricut cutter for me. And it's hard to see here, but it is the same design. I do want to give a huge shout out to Lyndsey over at Country Creations. She was able to do this quickly. She adapted to a pretty big workload because this is a pretty large thing to do on a 24-inch sheet. So make sure to go check her out on Instagram if you need any stencil working with Cricut cutting. She also has a glow forge that she does a ton of wood crafting with. So make sure to go check her out. So the next step is weeding this stencil, and that is going to take a fair bit of time. So I'm gonna go ahead and start going at that, and I'll see you back in a couple seconds. So I took my sheet of brass, I polished it up. So with sandpaper, I went from 220 to 320 to 800 to 1500 to 2000 to 3000. And then I used some polishing compound to bring it up to a mirror finish. Now there are a few things in here. I did want to get it to a nicer point than it originally came because I am going to go ahead and put the stencil on, and I just want a nice smooth surface for it to adhere to. And now we're going to go ahead and take our stencil, put the transfer paper over it, and then move it onto our sheet of brass. So here I have my brass sheet with my stencil on it, and so the next step I'm going to do is go ahead and cut the outline of this using my 14-inch bandsaw right behind me. And just be very, very careful not to go inside my pattern. I'm gonna take it slow, take my time, because this is a very expensive piece of material. Yeah. So I have the final profile done with my brass plate. After I use the bandsaw to get the rough profile, I then use some sandpaper and some of my sanders to finish out the curves of the sheet of brass. And then I just hand sanded the edges with 320 grit sandpaper just to get it nice and smooth and level. So now we're moving on to the acid etching process of this, and absolutely be careful when doing this. This can be potentially dangerous and you need to be very careful. Acid is not something you should mess with. I am going to be using ferric chloride, and it can burn and irritate the skin, and if you get it in your eyes, you need to seek medical attention. So of course I am going to be using rubber gloves, and I have a pair of safety glasses that I will be wearing when I do this step. So make sure that if you do any of this, make sure to use extreme caution and take all necessary precautions for yourself. So to show you some of the things I have here, I have a tote, which is what we're going to use to set our metal plate in. That way we don't make a mess of our ferric chloride. I also have some paper towels. This is a jar of water with baking soda in it, and then I have my little box of baking soda, and these are used for neutralizing the acids, which we will be using at the end of the etching process. Of course, I have my ferric chloride. Here I have some electrical tape, and what we're going to be using that for is we're going to be taping that all around the outside edge of our brass sheet, and that's going to create a barrier so that we can pool the acid on top of it. Now, I don't have enough acid to just submerge this thing in it, so what we're going to do is make a barrier, like a little dam around the rim, and then pull it on top of it and concentrate it over the brass itself. Now, to make sure you get the results you want, I would suggest doing some practice pieces. Here I have some leftover pieces that I did some practice etching on, because if you don't do it long enough, you're not really going to get enough definition in your pattern, and if you do it too long, you're going to lose way too much material and have really sharp edges. So this one I ended up doing, I did for about an hour and 30 minutes. That is just about right, but I am going to back it down to about an hour and 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and get after it. We're going to go ahead and put our tape around the edge, and then go ahead and put some acid on here. Now, while we're doing this acid etching, I do just want to jump in here and give a quick shout out to Metal Supermarkets of Cedar Rapids. When I was starting out this process, I had a vision in mind, and I knew I wanted some kind of brass for my inlay. So I found out that they recently opened here in my town, and I stopped in and I asked a bunch of questions, and everybody there was so helpful. They took time out of their busy day to walk me through their supply shop and check out all the stuff that they had to offer. Taking a look at everything they had a ton of stuff there. Although brass is kind of hard to have in stock, they did ship it in for me, and it didn't take very long for them to get it to me. They're always very friendly and always answered all the questions that I had. And again, I just want to give this huge shout out. They're not a sponsor of this episode by any means, but they did help me out with this sheet of brass. So if you're ever in the area, make sure to hit up Metal Supermarkets. All right, back to the guitar build. The last thing you saw me do is peel the stencils off of my brass, and after that I went and I polished it. So now we have it up to a nice high finish, and it looks very good. This isn't the final way it's going to be. There are some scratches in here that I do want to get rid of and get to like a fine mirror finish. I don't want to get it to its final look and risk accidentally scratching it and then having to do it again later on down the road, so I'm going to leave it as it is right now, and we're going to move on to the wooden part of our guitar body. Okay, so we have the body of our guitar trimmed to its dimensions and planed smooth on both sides. So we're going to go ahead and start trimming out the body, and basically this is going to work like this. I'm going to center this as best as I can, giving myself about a 1/4 inch on either side right here, as well as a 1/4 inch up there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trace out right next to this brass, because I want this to be as snug as it can be for when it actually goes into the guitar as an inlay. There is a perfect outline of my brass inlay. Now I have to trace another line that is 9/32 outside of that. I'd say that looks pretty good for freehand. Let's go over to the bandsaw, cut this out. Well, it turns out I didn't record me using my nice new bandsaw, but here is the guitar body, and that is frustrating. All right, back over to the workbench. All right, it is the next day, and now we are going to go ahead and route out the interior part of our body. This is only going to be to the depth of our 1/8 inch sheet of brass. So we're going to be routing out the body only an 1/8 inch down, and this is on the inside part of it. Alright, so I have my brass inlay inside my wood body. So just off camera, I went and I made a little acrylic template for my neck pocket as well as my pickup pockets. And so that's going to go something like that. And so I'm going to go ahead and start marking out where these pockets are going to go, and then I'm going to start removing them. Now this is something I've been pondering and concerning about for a while now on how to do this and make sure I do it properly and safely, because with this brass it's a very expensive piece of material and I really don't want to mess this up, especially at this point. Or any point for that matter. So I'm going to go ahead, take my time, mark these spots out, and go ahead and start removing them. So I just finished cutting out and filing the holes for our neck pocket and our pickup pockets for our brass sheet. So we're going to set this aside for right now. And we are actually going to return our focus back to the body. I went back and planed this flush again because I wasn't completely happy with how smooth the inner edges of our body was for when the brass lays into it. So I wanted to try that again. Now ultimately this will make our guitar just a little bit thinner, but only by about 1/8 inch. So it was something I decided to go with. In addition to that, I went and I marked out all the areas that we are going to be removing material from, as well as where the pickups are going to go and the neck pocket is going to go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the outside edge, and then I'm going to start working on removing the vast amount of material for the body. Alright, so I redid my body, and now I'm a lot happier with how my brass inlay sits in the wood. It is a little thinner, but again, it's not that big of a deal. So far, it is kind of heavy, and I did remove a lot of material on the inside. So let's just go ahead and take a look at that. So on the inside, I routed out a lot of it. The only thing I didn't is the middle section, excluding where the pickups go. But for the space on the top side and the bottom side of the guitar, I did route that out, mostly for weight reduction, because I am dealing with hard maple and an 1/8 inch sheet of brass, and it is kind of heavy, but not unbearably so. And then I did go and route out my neck pocket, and this is 3/4 inches deep from the top of my guitar, and that's going to set us up real well for our neck. The whole first episode was just the body. Now, there is more to do on the body, but that's where I want to call it for now. But that's going to be it for this video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this, I have a playlist queued up for you over there. And if you want to see the other videos for this guitar, I have another playlist for you right there. And of course, if you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button right there in the middle of your screen. I very much appreciate it. But other than that, I'll see you on part 2 of my great guitar build off guitar build. Have a great day. Bye.